Yes, magkita-kita po tayo sa darating na linggo, Arcadia County Park Harvest Moon Festival. I'm going to be there as well. And guess what? We are giving away a brand new car. Remember last January, ang nanalo po sa aming Lunar New Year sa LA18 ay ng bagong kotse, isa pong kababayan. So who knows, you might be lucky. And if you are feeling lucky, go head over to Arcadia County Park on Sunday. Meanwhile, back here in the studio, every other Wednesday, we have a regular segment here where we help you not just to survive here in the States, but also to thrive and also ultimately to achieve your American dream.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Richard Lowe joining us on Kababayan LA and also wearing the same color as my top. You're wearing a yellow tie. Nice tie.
We're coordinated.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about LPR abandonment today on the show. First of all, what does LPR stand for? A lot of people are saying, you know, is it legal permanent resident or lawful permanent resident? Which one is?
It's technically lawful permanent resident, but people often say legal permanent resident when they're talking about it. It signifies the same thing. There's no real difference between.
Okay, what is LPR abandonment?
Well, that's the time when a person who's a legal permanent resident leaves the United States for a long period of time. I mean, we've talked about on the show about leaving for a year or something like that, but this is about leaving for 3-4 years. And a lot of times that happens when people go back for a short visit and it turns into a long visit. They're going to go back and sell property and that takes a long time, or they get sick, or a family member gets sick and they have to care for them, and that then extends their stay sometimes 2 or 3 years.
And why is it important? Why are we talking about this?
Well, we're talking about this because I think what happens is a lot of people believe that, well, I've been out of the country for so long that, you know, I'm no longer a permanent resident, or how do I get back to the United States, or what should I do? And really the important thing is to remember that if you've always intended to come back to the United States, then you can come back. You'll have a little bit of difficulty, obviously, when you get back here, and you'll have some explaining to do, as Ricky Ricardo would say. But, you know, you can overcome the issues of having stayed out of the United States for a long period of time.
Yes, and just to be clearer about this, can we cite an example? There's a court case.
Yeah, there's a recent court case came out of the Ninth Circuit, and this was dealing with a child who had been out of the United States for a long time. And what happened in that case, they went back to Iran, and this was right before the 9/11.
Okay.
And when they were there, 9/11 happened,
right.
And there were travel restrictions for Iranians, so they couldn't come back. And then the father had a heart attack, and so they had to stay. And so the child ended up staying there until he turned 18.
Okay.
And then when he turned 18, he got a passport, and he came back to the United States, and the government wanted to remove him. Well, the court said the government didn't show that the parents themselves had abandoned their permanent residency.
Right.
So the evidence that the government had presented was not sufficient, and that the child, because as soon as he turned 18, he tried to come back, he himself retained that intent when he turned 18, and so the court said he is still a permanent resident and allowed to stay in the United States.
Right.
And the important thing there is that the government has the burden to show by clear, unequivocal, convincing evidence
that you're abandoning your LPR status.
Absolutely.
Okay, let us talk about this LPR abandonment for minor children. What are the important things that we need to remember?
Well, I think what's important to remember is that for a child, your parents' intent is going to be imputed onto you. So we're going to first look at the parents' intent and say, okay, did they intend to come back to the United States? And if they didn't, then that's an issue for the child. Now, they did leave a window open in this case in saying that there could be exceptions. They didn't say what they were, but there could be exceptions to that rule. So that does leave a window open for in the future that somebody may argue that I always had the intention, although my parents didn't.
Right.
And then the other thing is to remember that the government has the burden to show that you abandoned your permanent residency, or that your parents abandoned your permanent residency. So it's important. I think it's important to take your chances in court to try to prove your case if you have good reasons and good evidence, rather than just sort of giving up and saying, oh, I've been here so long, it's all over.
Right. Does it also, I think it's also important that before you travel, you talk to a lawyer and see what the implications are of the travel, right? If you're staying 6 months, longer than 6 months and all that, correct?
I think it's always important to get legal advice if you have it available to you, particularly if you've been out of the United States for a long period of time. Because when you do come back, if you come back with your permanent residency card and it's not expired, you will be put into a process. You'll be let into the country, even if you've been out of the country for a long time. So you have to be aware what that process is, what the steps are, and how you're going to be able to present evidence and present your case once you get that started.
Sounds good. And that is why nagpapasalamat po kami sa Aquino and Low Law Firm, because they do give free consultation. They can use that, right? Free consultation. They can come to you and ask about that if they're leaving and some of the implications, the requirements, things that you have to take note of.
Absolutely. That's a perfect opportunity to come and talk to an attorney and see what's going on with yourself.
Yes, and see Attorney Richard Lowe in person. He will help you. He's a good guy. Thank you so much, and more power to you.
Thank you.
That's the number to call on the screen. Go and call now and schedule your appointment. They do give free office consultation, and they charge a nominal fee for web or for email or phone consultation. We'll be back for more on Kababayan LA. Don't go away.